From roughly 1880 until the dawn of the motion picture, cycloramas were immensely popular in the larger cities of the United States. Immense paintings measuring almost 380 feet long and more than 40 feet tall, they were hung in the round so that spectators could stand at a central point and be surrounded by the action depicted in the paintings. Paul Philippeteau, the French painter hired to commemorate the Gettysburg battle in a cyclorama, worked to create 4 versions of the painting. Philippeteau was then renowned for his work on cycloramas in Europe, where the fad had begun. He labored for 2 years to create the painting now being restored at Gettysburg. He began by building a tower on the battlefield on a spot that marked the South's farthest advance on the last day of fighting.
He built what they think was a 30-foot or higher wooden tower on this location so that he could see the depth of the landscape. He went to Washington and studied maps. He talked to participants. He took a guided tour with William Holdsworth, one of the early guides who was a veteran. And he hired William Tipton, a local photographer, to take a series of 360-degree photographs of from this location.
He photographed, often placing men and horses at various points as reference for size and perspective. He then returned to France to finish the project in the studio.
Certainly one man couldn't paint this in any sort of reasonable amount of time. So typically the artists had a crew, and in this case I recall it was between 6 and 12 people at a time working on it. Each artist has a specialty, really. Clearly there was an artist that was excellent at painting horse portraits, because the portraits of the horses are absolutely exquisite. There's different elements of the landscape that are more linear or flow or have different modeling and so on and so forth. So you can tell the different artists' hands within the different elements of the, and it was a portrait painter and so on. And I would venture to guess he probably completed about 85% of it. Then it was brought over to its installation.
The Chicago version, when it opened in 1883 in the fall, was such a phenomenal success, and many of the visitors were veterans themselves. That led the entrepreneur that had partnered with him, Willoughby, to commission another and then 2 more for the 4 major cities in the country, which were Chicago, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. It was such a phenomenal success that there were knockoffs. We would call them knockoffs today. They were copies of Philippeteau's original 4. There may be as many as 6 more. After traveling around, being thrown up overnight into these big round tents and these temporary buildings, they just basically, most of them fell apart. And the phenomenon passed. When moving pictures came on the scene, this just wasn't as exciting anymore.
The painting currently under restoration is the second version painted by Philippeteau's team.
Well, this painting actually was originally painted for Boston. It moved from there around the turn of the century and was purchased by a department store owner in New Jersey, and actually cut up into more pieces and hung like wallpaper almost in the department store. In the early part of this century, it did come back to Gettysburg. A building was built to house it in Gettysburg, and then it moved in 1963 to its current location, which is right on the battle line, and that's where it's been up until now. What we decided is we wanted to recreate what the artist was trying to do, taking it back to the way it was presented in 1884. And what the artist was trying to do was to give you that momentary illusion that you were in the middle of the battle. You lose your peripheral vision and you become engulfed in the images that are on the painting.
From the vantage point of the Union line, a viewer is immersed in conflict. Pickett's charge is in full swing. There is a close combat in the wheat field. Off in the distance stand Little Round Top and Big Round Top. In other words, one is thrust into the very moment when the Union turned the tide toward victory. Victory on July the 3rd, 1863, and ultimately in the war itself. In the next installment, we'll look at the restoration process of the Gettysburg cyclorama.